So we're finally doing one of the small displacement Hondas. What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, Yammy Noob, back at it once again. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Beginner Bike Giveaway series. We are doing our first impression ride of this, the 2020 Honda CBR500R. In case you don't know, this is one of our newest giveaway beginner motorcycles. I do this because I love making content about these bikes, because I think it's important for new riders to the sport to see a more experienced motorcyclist hopping aboard these machines, having fun with them, making content with them. And then I buy them because I don't need any more personal motorcycles. As many of you think the N+1 principle holds true for me. I think between 3 to 4 motorcycles is plenty for any human being, at least for me. So hit the link down below, go to yammynoob.co and find out how you can get entered to win the CBR500R. I've got 3 motorcycles up for grabs now for the Beginner Bike Giveaway series. Got this, a Z650, and a Triumph Street Scrambler. We've also got a Ducati Panigale V2 as part of our Expert Bike Giveaway series. And we've also got a Harley Davidson 883 as part of our Modern Classic series. And word on the grapevine is that come November, I might buy another motorcycle to give away as a new sweepstakes. So I'm giving away a ton of motorcycles. Definitely hit the link below and check out how you can get entered to win and join our awesome Discord community. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Manimoto for supporting today's video. Going to tell you guys a little bit more about them right now. Manimoto is a new sponsor for the Yammy Noob channel, and I'm really excited to work with them. Motorcycle security is something that's really paramount to what I do, especially when I have, I kid you not, 17 or 18 motorcycles in my shop that are personal bikes or promotional bikes right now. And while we have solid security systems when the bikes are stored, I often like taking the extra precaution when we're on location and shooting stuff. The best thing about Manimoto is that it's quick to set up and wireless. Most motorcycle security systems require leads from your battery and are permanently installed on a bike. Not with Manimoto. You can move the unit from bike to bike, use the quick setup app, and always have security. Being that it isn't on a wired connection, you can also place the unit with a little more flexibility on your motorcycle. It runs on 2 single-use long-life batteries that only need replacing once per year. Right now, if you hit the link down below and use the code YAMMY7, you can get yourself 7% off your Manimoto and have one of the easiest motorcycle security setups. If you're like me and own even 2 motorcycles, it's great to have just one security system to move between bikes. Thanks again to them for supporting the channel, and be sure to check them out in the description below. Alright guys, got my phone out so I would not forget my notes on this motorcycle, because I do want to keep the spec sheet warriors happy. This is a 471cc parallel twin engine. Now if you think that is a weird displacement, well, you'd be right. It's a bit of an oddball displacement. It's not a 650. It's not a 300, it's somewhere in between. But on today's first ride, you're definitely going to note that this thing competes most closely with the likes of the Ninja 400, R3, and those sorts of machines. It makes 47 perfectly A2 compliant horsepower and 31 foot-pounds of torque. So definitely, because this is a bigger engine than something like the Duke 390, the Ninja 400, or the R3, it definitely punches a little bit harder and makes more torque. But there's a figure that I'm going to get to here in just a minute that will kind of negate all of what I just told you. Also features 41mm preload adjustable front suspension, which is kind of cool. It's got a single monoshock at the rear, which preload adjustability. It has a 160 rear section tire, which is quite weird for this class of bike. Normally Ninja 400s, R3s are a 140 or 150 rear section tire. This is a plus size to a 160, so kind of cool that Honda did that. It's got these really nice wheels on there. I like the look of the wheels, the rim tape and all that. The frame and the swing arm look almost identical to the Ninja 400 to me. That's super, super similar. It's got a 30.7-inch seat height, which is very approachable for new riders. So this is definitely a new rider approved bike for me and my taste. But the figure I want to quote here is that this motorcycle weighs 423 pounds. Guys, that is an absolute porker for this class. And to give you an idea, the Ninja 400 weighs about 370 pounds wet and ready to ride. Something like the Duke 390 weighs, I think, like 340, 350. So this is a heavy machine. However, it does have a bigger engine, so we'll see if that makes up for it a little bit. It's got a single disc up front, not radially mounted, just a regular brake caliper here. Kind of a wide angle here that it's mounted up to. It looks a little bit funky. The two pipes right here look very pretty. Overall, one thing this motorcycle does extremely well is it looks like a more grown-up, bigger motorcycle. It doesn't look like a small starter bike or a little scooter or something. This looks like a full-sized sport motorcycle. And when I flip the keys, you can see all the lights. It has a very cool look to it. It's a very aggressive, kind of grown-up look. It looks very cool. It looks like a sport bike, you know? But the other elephant in the room with this machine, unfortunately, is the price. This thing costs $6,999 MSRP. So that is before tax, title, license, whatever you have to pay where you live. So this machine, if you do buy it MSRP, you don't negotiate it a little bit, you're talking over $8,000 for this bike, which, guys, that is a hard pill to swallow for me for this class of motorcycle. This machine, unfortunately, is not too dissimilar from a Ninja 400 or an R3 or something like that to warrant such a high price point. To give you an idea, an MT-03 is $45.99, so this machine is $2,400 more than an MT-03. That's a spicy meatball. Let's see if the Honda build quality and reliability and the coolness and all that is worth the price of entry. Jumping aboard this machine here, you flick the key. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you would know that this dash is the same dash that they use on the CB650R. The only difference is the rev limiter obviously is quite a bit lower. This bike peters out at about 9,000 RPM if I remember correctly. So starting it up here, we'll put it in neutral, flip the kill switch, turn it on. And it's a 180-degree parallel twin. It doesn't sound too different than your R3s or Ninja 400s, so we'll give it a bit of a rev here so we can hear it. It's a little bit throatier, a little bit kind of gruntier because it is a bigger displacement. So let us take off on the CBR500R. So one thing I want to mention about this bike as we take off here is the ergonomics package is very amenable. Even though this bike looks like a very sporty, extreme sport bike kind of thing, it's actually quite comfortable to ride. The ergonomics package is basically the same as a Ninja 400 or an R3. The R3 is actually a little bit more pitched over. That's the more kind of boy racer bike out of all of them. Taking off here in first. Takes us about 3 gears to get to 60. And I gotta tell you guys, right off the bat, that is not any bit faster than a Ninja 400. So the 71 extra cubes you get on the CBR500R is not really helping you a whole lot. Another thing I'm noticing here as well is you get on this bike, mid-range grunt, it'll pull, but it is hampered by that very heavy weight. 423 pounds is a very large motorcycle in this class. So let's go through some of the basics here. So looking at it right here, you have a nice cable actuated throttle, normal kind of setup right here, very traditional huge red kill switch, starter switch right here, got hazards, which is cool, an adjustable brake lever, which is a nice touch, and the throttle feel is actually quite good. Honda does a great job of the throttle feel. I really enjoyed the CB650R we had last year as one of our giveaway motorcycles, and this bike is no different. On-off throttle feels very nice on this bike. You can blip down gears, super nice, off the throttle, back on, super smooth, nice and easy. So no complaints from me about the throttle. The tube travel is quite good too. Right here. Feels nice. Moving on to the brakes here as we approach a stop. This motorcycle's brakes, they work, you know? They're not too different than anything else in the class. I think the Ninja 400 has a better brake setup than this motorcycle. I don't know what causes this bike to not have as nice of a bite feel as the Ninja 400. And I'll tell you one thing, I know exactly why it doesn't stop as hard as a Ninja 400. It's because it's back to that weight. This thing unfortunately does weigh like 50 or 60 pounds more than a Ninja 400. So given that it is a heavier motorcycle, you do get some benefits, right? It's not all bad news with the heavier bike. At speed on the highway, this thing definitely feels a little bit more stable than your Ninja 400. So I'm cruising along here, 65 miles per hour, and absolutely just cruising along the highway here. So if highway cruising is very important to you, which I know it is to a lot of American consumers of motorcycles and that kind of stuff, this is good. This really works really well. I kind of like this little peaked windshield right here. I don't feel like it's doing a whole lot for me. It doesn't really feel too different than riding a naked bike, but I do like to look down at the dash right here, this kind of faux carbon fiber and all these plastics right in the dash. The kind of pseudo Öhlins blue capped forks here, kind of neat. So this is a cool bike. I like sitting on it. I like the way it looks and feels. Much like other baby fully fared motorcycles, the mirrors are really far out. I got to really stretch to adjust those. So thankfully on a motorcycle, you just got to adjust the mirrors once or twice and they're pretty much set and forget. Not like me and you're bopping around on different motorcycles. It was really nice to blip through the revs. It does a better job than the R3 at that. I like the way that it picks up the revs, and the throttle tube is set up correctly, so good job Honda for doing that the right way. But so far, riding this thing down the highway, I'm having a difficult time making the case for the CBR500R over its competitors, mostly because of that price point, man. Honda wants $6,999 for this MSRP. They want $7,000 MSRP. Now, I paid a whole lot less than that because I got a relationship with my dealership, and out the door, it was under $7,000 for me, which, again, I know a lot of you guys have never bought bikes before, but you got to pay for things like tax, title, and license, and the number you see on the website and the number you see on the dealer's website is almost never the number you're going to walk away with. So just keep that in mind. But it's a difficult motorcycle to make the case for how much money they want for it. When you're talking about $7,000, you know, $300 more and you get an MT-07, right? Not that much more money. You get a Ninja 650, which is a really great bike. It's still a parallel twin, still more of a plus-sized motorcycle, and that's pretty great. I think the one thing that people definitely have an allure about the 500 is this extra displacement that it has, but to me, I'm genuinely not noticing any meaningful difference in acceleration over something like a Ninja 400. It feels about as fast. In some parts, it kind of struggles over the Ninja 400 because of its weight. Clutch feel is really nice. It's exceptionally light, so that's going to make for a really easy motorcycle for beginners to ride around town and stuff. You can pull in the clutch super easily and select your next gear. The gearbox is nice and stiff too. Not as stiff and snatchy and snickety as something like a Z650, if you guys saw my first impression ride on that. And it's definitely not as precise as something with a quick shifter like a Ducati Panigale V2. It works super well though. I really like the gearbox combination, the clutch combination on this motorcycle. Getting it over on the side of the tire here a little bit, we're approaching my twisty road segment that I do for my first impression rides usually, and I gotta say I don't love it. This motorcycle feels a bit strange on the side of the tire for me. It's not really super communicative. I feel like I don't really know what the front end is doing. It's a little confusing for me. And I think these tires are a little limiting on it as well. Some of my European and international viewers told me that Honda sells a lot of these bikes because this is as high of a horsepower A2 bike that you can get. It has 47 horsepower, and I think a lot of people buy on spec sheets. But this is why I tell you guys that spec sheets are not the be-all end-all, and to look very closely when you're thinking about buying a motorcycle, because, I mean, from where I'm sitting right here, as of right now, maybe I need to spend more time with this motorcycle, but I see no reason to buy this over a Ninja 400. A Ninja 400 is every bit as good of a bike as this. It costs a whole lot less, and it's more fun to ride. And it has a parallel twin, and it's beginner appropriate, and it feels awesome. I just don't really see the reason why you should actually buy this. Now, to win it as a giveaway bike on yammynoob.co, why, of course you should do that. This is a very cool bike to win for free. But I'm having a hard time making the case for this thing brand new off the showroom floor. If you can find a used CBR500R at a good price and low mileage and all that, definitely go and check it out, because I think we'll make a very strong case for itself that way. But right now, brand new, I think it's a little tough. Yeah, I really feel this weight when I'm on the side of the tire here, going through some of these more twisty sections. It doesn't flick in as fast. It's not as sporty. This is more of a GT style motorcycle. This feels a lot like a VFR 800 in that way. Kind of, you know, fully fared, but also upright, but also a little heavy, you know. This is sort of like the gentleman's beginner bike. It's a little bit more refined, it's a little, you know, heavier, a little more subtle to ride. But the one thing that kind of sucks about it is the engine doesn't even rev out as hard, right? Because Honda has to keep it A2 compliant, you know, it peters out at like 9,000 RPM. Other bikes in the category, you can rev the nuts off of them, right? And R3, you can rev that to 12.5. It feels awesome pulling it out all the way to that. Ninja 400 revs out a ton. The Duke 390 doesn't rev out a lot, but it has a super punchy, super characterful little single-cylinder engine. The Sparpillin 401, what a fun bike to ride. That's the problem I'm having with the CBR right now, is that it's not exactly fun to ride. Oh, that moment when you sneeze mid-corner. It'll happily go along the road, but I've definitely ridden better, smaller bikes than this that will do it a little bit nicer, you know. Suspension-wise, this bike feels fine. It's sort of right in the middle of the road of something stiff and super soft. It's actually very well sprung for the street, and because you have preload adjustability, you can tailor it to your specific weight and get it all set up. But it doesn't have rebound and compression damping adjustments like more high-end suspension components would on a motorcycle, which again, Sparpillin 401, $5,000, fully adjustable front forks. Come on, Honda, where are you at? Maybe now it's time to talk about the looks of this machine, because I think that's an important factor. So this motorcycle, I think the number one thing it does super, super well, as I'm looking at my reflection here on the bus, is it genuinely looks like a cool sport bike. If you're very vain and you're very concerned about how you're going to look on your beginner bike, you don't want people to assume you got a little bike, you know, oh man, this dude's got an R3, let's all make fun of him, haha, let's steal his lunch money, you know, because that obviously happens at every bike night. It's sort of a rite of passage when you show up at a bike night to find the dude with the smallest displacement engine and take his lunch money. But this bike does a great job of looking the part. It looks like a proper, honest-to-God sport bike, which is cool. If you want to look cool on your motorcycle, this is probably the coolest looking small displacement entry-level bike. But in my opinion, you're giving up a lot to look cool on this bike. I think the Duke 390 looks every bit as cool as this motorcycle, and it has way more spice and character than something like this. I think the Ninja 400, you know, honestly, the Ninja 400, the new KRT paint scheme, looks super cool. I think I'd happily prefer that over this thing. So, yeah, I think Hondas are just kind of known for this, man. I've ridden a couple different Hondas now, and they are just kind of buttoned up. They are a little bit more subtle. They're a little bit more boring, you know, and that's all right. Some people want that in a motorcycle. I don't know why, but some people do. So I know what you're going to say. Well, Yami, if you don't like this bike, why did you buy it? Well, I bought it because it makes sense to make content about it, because a lot of people think about this motorcycle to get it. I get a lot of questions on my Discord server about the CBR500, specifically because people believe it to be a sort of midway point between a 650 class bike and a 300 class bike. But it's actually not at all. This motorcycle is not even close to being in between any of those. It's basically a fat Ninja 400. That's all it is. It's just a fat Ninja 400 that doesn't work as well, but has good throttle, you know, so it's got that going for it. You know, funny story, when I was first starting to get into motorcycles and thinking about riding and doing that whole thing back in, I think 2013 is when I started researching about bikes. Maybe it was 2012, I can't remember. I know 2012 was when I first got bit by the bug and I saw the Daytona 675 on Triumph's website, so that was about 8 years ago now. But I remember I stumbled across the Honda CB500R, or the CBR500R, and I thought it was super cool. I really thought it was cool, and I saw a bunch of videos where people were riding it, and I saw the old tachometer that it had, and it would rev out and stuff, and I was like, man, that's a cool bike. I kind of thought the same thing, that it was this sort of midway point between a 600 and a 300, and I was like, man, that's super cool that Honda makes that bike for you. But again, this is basically Honda's 300. I know that they'll sell you the CB300R, but this bike, in my opinion, is basically Honda's entry-level motorcycle. for the American market anyways. I think unless you're very, very, very concerned about power output on a motorcycle, I'd skip the 300s from Honda and just start straight looking at the 500s from them. But yeah, I remember being interested in this motorcycle. I remember thinking about getting it, thought it'd be kind of cool, and then by the time I was ready to buy my first bike, I saw the R3, and I was like, oh sweet, Yamaha made one, I'm in, because I really like the R6s and the R1s. Those were definitely my favorite Japanese sport bikes. And so I ended up going with the R3, but I definitely almost pulled the trigger on a 500 because I thought it was super cool. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because this bike is heavy and it doesn't have a lot of character, and it doesn't do a whole lot for me, honestly. I've not really ridden a motorcycle like this in a while, where it's difficult for me to find pleasant or nice things to say about it, but I'm not really enjoying myself when I'm on this thing. And that's no dog to people who own CBR500Rs. I think they're perfectly fine motorcycles, but they are a tad bit boring. They're a little bit boring, and that's okay. We'll do a little second gear test here to see the power. I want to see if it's actually any different than a 400. I don't think it is. It feels a bit more grunty in the mid-range, but not much, honestly. Not a whole lot. Mostly because these little bikes, you have to rev them out to get any power from them anyways, right? They're not like the 650s where you get a big punch of power low down. These are a little bit more different. You got to really rev them out, so not really getting it. Alrighty guys, bopping around the urban environment here on the CBR500R. How does it do? Well, that's fine. It's a little fully fared upright motorcycle basically, and it's very easy to maneuver. The clutch pull is super light on this machine, and so you're just kind of bopping around town like this. It's really no effort at all. The gearing is quite nice on this bike. You don't have to rip through 3 or 4 gears to get to where you're going. It's a little bit longer, so you can do just basically first and second gear on this machine, kind of bopping around town like this. Brakes feel nice. Got a guy fully going into his crack right there. It's beautiful. Welcome to Austin, baby. Over some more rough streets right here. Basically dual sporting right there. And the bike feels great, honestly. The suspension does a really good job of soaking up bumps. You can tell it was designed as a city commuter kind of bike. This motorcycle would work very, very well in your Londons and your São Paulos and those kind of places in France. Even though I have lane basseted as a fat Ninja 400, it's still very slim, and even though lane filtering is not legal technically here in Texas, this is a motorcycle that I feel like you could lane filter pretty easily with, but we can't, and we don't really have to here very often, which is kind of nice. Do a little brake check up here. Okay, not bad. Very easy to manage stop and go traffic on this machine. Not bad at all. So if you are someone who's thinking of getting this motorcycle and you have a lot of downtown, urban environment kind of traffic, it's going to do just fine. So what's my final impression of this machine, the Honda CBR500R? Well, in terms of execution, if you need a bike that'll go in the city, on the highway, looks like a sport bike, and does the job, this is a 10 out of 10. However, if you want something a little bit more exciting, if you want a motorcycle that, stirs your soul a little bit more, moves you a little bit, I'd basically recommend just about any other of these small displacement motorcycles in this category. I think the R3 is a more fun motorcycle because it revs harder than this thing. The Ninja 400 revs harder and is more playful. The Duke 390 is a much more playful, much more fun motorcycle to own. The Svartpillen 401 is cheaper and better to own. And that's the other thing I didn't mention, is that all 4 of those motorcycles I just mentioned are $2,000 more or less expensive than this thing. This motorcycle is way overpriced in my opinion for the performance and the offering that it's giving you. Basically, the only thing it has going for it is that it's a cool sport bike looking bike without any of the cool sport bike stuff. So in that regard, I'd probably give this thing like a 4 out of 10 in my opinion. It's not going to give you the same level of excitement and character as basically all the other bikes in the category. And again, it's basically just a Fat Ninja 400 with blue capped forks. That's about it. So thanks for checking this one out today, guys. Hope you appreciate it. Remember to go to the link down below to yammynoob.co. Learn how you can get entered to win this motorcycle, the Z650 or the Triumph Street Scrambler. Also got the Ducati V2 Panigale up for grabs and the Harley Davidson as part of our Modern Classic giveaway series. Probably doing a different bike in November, probably buying another motorcycle and giving it away as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. That's going to be pretty awesome. And we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.
Oh, hey, you're still here. I can't believe you made it to the end of the video. Not many people do. Just for you, I have a little treat. Hit this link over here. Check out the next video on the YammyNoob catalog. What's going to happen in it? I don't really know. Maybe there's a boost in it. Maybe there's some cool wheelies. Maybe there's some fun memes. Probably. Who can say?